right, welcome to the homework informational video for homework week 8. And what we're going to take a look at today is how to set up your multiple behaviors that you've been tracking in a way that's going to make it possible for you to do a visual analysis that compares the effects of reinforcement on one behavior, but not reinforcement on the other behaviors. So if you remember last assignment, we started reinforcing the typing test. And now we're going to set up a way that we can analyze the effect of that reinforcement by comparing the effect on the typing test to the other behaviors that we are tracking. So before we get going on that aspect of it, just a reminder to continue with everything that we've been doing so far. We've been building bit by bit, but we want to make sure that we maintain those behaviors and we maintain that progression so that we can have access to that data for later assignments. So continue on with ClockFi, continue on with your typing test, which is now being reinforced. So continue on with that reinforcement in this week as well. Continue on with your SART, continue on with your dual MBAC, continue on with your behaviors 1 and 2. And all of those will become important as we continue moving through this course. So we want to make sure that we continue on with all of those behaviors and tracking all of those behaviors. All right, so for this particular homework assignment, homework week 8, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up the behaviors in a way that allows us to do a visual analysis. So to begin this, what you want to do is you want to download that homework week 8 visual analysis setup PowerPoint file. And we can see we have it open here already. And this is where we're going to copy and paste the graphs that we've been making for our visual analysis of behavior. So we start off with the PowerPoint file open. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go to our typing test. And we are going to want to copy the graph along with the line. So in order to do that, you have to select the line and the graph, and then you copy both of them. So you can do that with a keyboard shortcut, Control-C. That's my preferred method. If you have another method, feel free. But we're going to copy that, and then we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we are going to paste that. And importantly for this, when you paste it, you need to paste it as an image. So we do not want to paste this as an Excel spreadsheet. That's going to make things incredibly difficult to work with. We want to paste this as an image so that we can have that data in a readily manipulable form, as we're going to see in just a moment. So we paste it as an image, as a picture, and then that's going to pop up in the middle of your slide. So then we just take that, because it's our first behavior, and we move it all the way up to the top. Now we're going to do the same thing with each and every subsequent behavior. So we are going to go and we're going to go to our SART graph. We are going to copy that SART graph, go back to our PowerPoint, paste it as an image. And we're going to move that right underneath where our typing test is. Now, this PowerPoint has been created to be formatted correctly for the size of the graphs that you're going to be copying and pasting from the Excel spreadsheets. So once again, we now go to dual MBAC. We are going to copy, pop that into our PowerPoint as an image. And that one just happens to fall into the appropriate space. So now we go to behavior number 1. Copy, paste, move it to the appropriate location. And then finally, behavior number 2, copy and paste. All right, so that is what the behaviors are going to look like overall. And as you can see, the behaviors here, they're being compared, and it's important that they're being compared on the same date axis. So it's very important that your dates line up and that your graph has the correct dates for the behaviors that you recorded. So I did notice that some of you, when you were recording, for example, your SART data, you began it at September 5th, which was the first week of school, which was the first time that we were doing an assignment. So if you did that, make sure that you correct your data, make sure that you correct those dates by simply going to the data, copy the data from the incorrect date, and then paste it so that it's in the correct date. So you know when you began that assignment, you know your schedule, you know when you would have most likely begun this. So you want to paste it so that it's in the correct dates. And if you are struggling on how to figure out when it was that you did this, put the copy and paste it so that your final day of behaviors, which should be very recent, so it should be within the last couple of days at least if you're doing those 5 out of 7, put it so that your final day of behavior recording is in the correct date, and then that will shift everything across into the correct positions, because it's very important to know when did we start these behaviors and when did we have our final behavior, and we want to make sure that those have that sort of staggered formation. So you can see that when it's done correctly, you'll see that the typing training here has started the earliest. It's the furthest to the left. SART and the dual MBAC then started. It's a little bit further to the right. And then behavior number 1 and behavior number 2, they started in the next week. So again, they're a little bit further to the right. And this will show up, if done correctly, in your PowerPoint visual analysis setup. So this is where we have the visual analysis set up so far. The last thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the scale of these graphs is approximately where we need them, because right now they're not exactly in a great place. Some of them are a little bit too big. Some of them might be a little bit too small. So what we're going to do is we are going to choose the graph that is for the right side. So we're going to choose the graph that for the right axis here, the one that is the middle of them all. So we have 5 graphs. 2 are going to be the furthest to the right. 2 are going to be the furthest to the left. Which one is in the middle? We're going to choose that one as our reference point. Okay, so for this example here, if your graphs look like my graphs do, then that graph that we're going to choose is going to be the SART graph, because typing training is too far to the left. These other 3 behaviors are furthest to the right. So we're going to choose this one. It is somewhere in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to shapes here, and we are going to insert a line, and that line is going to be as far to the right as that SART graph is, as that middle graph, as your reference point is. And we are going to take that and we are going to extend it the entire way down. Now we want to make sure that our line is straight, so we can go here to format while it's still selected. And we can see that our line has some width. It's not supposed to have width. It's supposed to be completely straight. So we're just going to take that down to 0. And now we have a perfectly straight line. And if you need to move it over a little bit, like we do right here, just a smidge, then you can do that after you have straightened your line. So what we're going to do now is we are going to click on each of these images. And this is why you want them as images, so they're easily manipulable. And we are going to click on the right side here on this little square here, and that's going to allow us to extend this image. And we are just going to extend it until that right axis lines up with our reference line. So we're going to do this for each of them. All right, so we did that for each of them. So now our right axis for each of our graphs is lined up correctly. So we can then get rid of our line that we drew. And now we have our other lines here on the our other axes on the other side. Those are pretty much lined up. So the last thing that we need to do now is we need to go back to shapes. We're going to draw one more line. And the line that we're going to draw is going to be an extension of this line here in your typing test, which is where you began your reinforcement. So remember, in the previous homework assignment, you have to draw that line to indicate where it was that you began reinforcement. So we're once again going to draw a line and extend it all the way down And then we're going to go here to format, and we're going to make sure that it is straight. Oh, it was really close. So now we have this line, and we can move it over a skosh if required. And there we go. So now we have this line, and it tells us at what point in our life, and this is going to be important for later. We're going to talk about multiple baseline across behaviors in an upcoming lecture. But this is going to tell us in our life, when did we begin reinforcement? And it's going to see if it's going to allow us to determine if the reinforcement affected typing training alone, or if other behaviors increased after that reinforcement period. And that's going to be very important in telling us whether the reinforcement was effective or whether the reinforcement was not related to our increase in our behavior. But that is all for a future lecture. But for today, that is what we want to get to. We want to get to this point where we can now have a setup for visual analysis. We're going to learn how to do that visual analysis at a later time, but I just want to make sure that you know how to set it up, because we're going to have to do this again in coming weeks as we add more to more behaviors to these. But this is how we're going to get it set up right now, kind of like a jump start on that. So, and that is it. Once you have those 5 behavior graphs drawn in there, the axes shifted so that they all line up, and then that reinforcement line drawn all the way down, you're going to save that. You're going to upload that as your submission for the homework, and you'll be all done. All right. So thank you for joining me here on this homework week 8 information video. And I can't wait to see how you've been improving on your typing test. I'm very excited to see if there's been an effect of reinforcement, but whether there is, whether there isn't, that's why we do the visual analysis, to see if the reinforcement that was chosen is going to be effective. But like I said, very excited to see it. Can't wait to take a look at some of those uploaded graphs. And until next time, stay frosty, stay functional. All right, welcome to the homework informational video for homework week 8. Now, this homework assignment is not associated with a chapter because of our lighter schedule due to the fall break. So we're going to call this one homework week 8.